was always the Jags. It's always the Jags. It's always the Jags. It's always the Jags.
Always the Jags.
Welcome into Always the Jags. Gotta tell you guys, I really wanted to skip this week. I was about, another 6 hours from officially skipping it and just letting us go to the next day. Hopefully pretending that week 16 didn't happen. Maybe if I didn't record it, maybe it just didn't happen. Because the Jaguars, to say that was the most embarrassing performance of the entire year would be an understatement. Because I don't think there was ever a game that we played this year where we were down 30-0. And our team didn't just look ill-equipped to play. Like Trevor Lawrence said, they didn't look like they practiced. They looked like a high school football team going against a college team. They looked like our guys nobody showed up. They were doing a player of the game voting for the Jaguars podcast, the post game, and everybody just chose Calvin Ridley because he got 90 yards and 2 touchdowns. And to say that was the garbage of garbage time. Really, garbage time started when we kicked off the ball because the Jaguars played like garbage all day. And sure, maybe Calvin Ridley was the best guy on the field for the last 10 minutes? 15 minutes until Baker Mayfield decided, okay, let's not give them any hope that they're creeping back into this and let's just go ahead and win it. And he threw 3 passes and just, ended the game. It was disturbing. We were so outclassed. And we've been on a losing streak. Understandable. And I feel like, maybe I could have understood if the Bucs slipped away with one, But we got dominated in and out. Zay Jones was out. Christian Kirk is still out. Our offensive line, by all intents and purposes, was healthy. But I would have preferred if they were injured with the way they performed and the way guys were coming in Trevor's face. Every single play, the line just broke down, guys bursting through. Tyson Campbell is still not right. Either his hamstring injury, I don't know what's going on. He just might need to sit until the playoffs or something because him playing like this is worse than him just not playing at all. Andre Sisco was back too to help against Mike Evans, and it didn't help at all. I don't know if maybe he came back too early from his injury. And yeah, the Jaguars got hit with the injury bug, and you could tell it affected our performances these last couple of weeks. We're not used to a team. We're not used to playing with injuries. We're not used to having guys out. But every team has injuries. Like last year, we stayed remarkably healthy, but it's like if you go back to that Browns game, yeah, we had a lot of people out, and it messed us up. You know how many people the Browns have out? Almost their entire offensive line. They're playing with a backup quarterback, and they lost their star running back. They have guys out everywhere. Every team is littered with injuries. It's like we just gave up before the game started, and I don't know if we just underestimated the Buccaneers or if Doug and Trent Baalke decided our team was good. Because the thing was, even when we drafted last year, we drafted as if we were, a contender already. And we really weren't there. We needed some depth, but we drafted a lot of, developmental guys. And kind of, icing on top players. And, even a guy like Tank Bigsby that we drafted, running back in the 3rd round. We've got nothing out of him. Every time he's played, he's gotten a little bit here and there, but he hasn't done anything that I don't think ETN can do. And a couple of times when he's been on the field have led to terrible plays. And then we took 2 more linebackers in the 4th round. And I'm like, the moves that contenders make are the ones where they trade those 4th and 5th round picks for guys like Zadarius Smith, who I said the Jaguars should pick up. Guys like Amari Cooper, who I said the Jaguars should pick up. Who picked him up? The Browns. What are the Browns about to do? Go to the playoffs. You know, if the Browns keep winning and the Ravens drop a single game, the Browns could get the number 1 seed in the AFC. Just 3 weeks ago, the Jaguars, if we had beat Cincinnati, which again, I don't know if that would have changed the whole narrative of our season. If Brandon McManus just makes 1 field goal in that game, sends it to overtime, and maybe we got the win. I don't know. But that game, I don't know if that changed our whole trajectory of the season. But it feels like this is one of the lowest times we've ever been for a Jaguars fan. Because we haven't gotten outclassed like that since San Francisco. And we all know San Francisco is a top dog in the league. But then the Ravens just beat them. So, that showed some cracks there. But again, we were just a couple of plays away from beating the Ravens. But then you let the Buccaneers drop 30 on you and you can't score at all? And now we're in danger of not making the playoffs at all. Trevor Lawrence is out. Can't play. CJ Beathard's going to play. Like, maybe throughout this stretch, if Trevor Lawrence was out the whole time, it would feel better because it's like we're playing with a backup quarterback. I understand, like, if we take these losses, because it's like I would have rather Trevor had just stayed out of these games if his injuries was going to make him play this poorly. Because now you don't, like, I don't know, like, was it his injuries that are making him play poorly or just injuries to receivers or what's going on? But now CJ Beathard has to go beat the Panthers. And I think it's well within his realm to do it. And I honestly think a quarterback change is probably the right move right now just because we are circling the drain. But this is Freefall right here. This is probably the worst late season collapse I've ever seen. And like I said, had we beat the Buccaneers and then beat the Panthers, we could have rested our starters against Tennessee, who looks good. Like, Will Levis is starting to put it together. They don't look like we didn't think the Buccaneers were a pushover. We were going to put up a fight. But I didn't expect us to beat them down or anything, but like a 20-30 victory. A 20-10 victory or something like that. And don't get me wrong, Baker Mayfield's playing good ball. Chris Godwin playing good ball. Mike Evans playing good ball. Jaguars, not. And we have so many guys that are healthy that aren't playing nearly as well as we were. Like, where's our defense? Just because Tyson Campbell can't cover Mike Evans, our entire defense fell apart? We got no pressure on Baker. I bet Trent Baalke's kicking himself for not, going for broke and making a move to bring in a stellar pass rusher. Because, our defense is keeping us in games at the beginning of the season. But we also went against some pretty terrible offenses, like the Falcons, like the Saints, like the Steelers. And now we can't get pressure, and that's hurting us against good offenses, like the Ravens. Like the Browns surprisingly have a good offense with Joe Flacco at the helm. And I guess the Buccaneers have a good offense, even though somehow the Colts defense was able to hold them to 27. But we evidently could not. So there's only so much to say in this podcast. I'm sorry it sounds so depressing. Hopefully we beat the Panthers and it'll be much better. I can't even tell you how we beat the Panthers. I think the first step would just be to show up. I live here in Charlotte, so I wish the Panthers game was at Bank of America Stadium because I would so be there. But it is not. But I saw a really good point on Twitter. It's like if the Jaguars go into that game saying Panthers are the worst team in the league, we can beat them. No. Like the Jaguars have to look at themselves and say, we are the worst team in the league right now. Based upon our last 4 games, Jaguars have been playing the worst football out of the NFL because we are falling. Each loss has gotten worse and worse. Trevor in each game has been worse and worse and worse. Everybody across the board has been worse. Started on Monday night, lost by 3 points. It was heartbreaking, heart-wrenching. Our defense just couldn't get the stop. 3 points. Then we lost by 4 points. And we technically should have lost by double digits, but we had a chance to make it a single digit by the end of the game. We were still down for 2 scores for most of the game. It wasn't like back and forth affair. Like Monday night was a back and forth affair. Browns dominated that contest. And the Ravens controlled it from the entire game. We ended up losing by, I think it was 2 or 3 scores. And now here we are where we got completely obliterated. And 12 points that I honestly wish we didn't score, because Calvin Ridley's agent's going to try to use that as part of why he should be re-signed if he cracks 1,000 yards. You want to keep playing, but it's like, it's too late, Calvin. Like, it's too late. All this skill, getting open, whatever, like, you're not, it's like these kind of games, it's like you're not getting open because you can, you're getting open because the defense is letting you, because it's garbage time. Just letting the clock run out. You know? And it's like I said, it was a great showing, and I'm sure he deserves player of the game, but it's too late. You gotta do that in the first quarter, man. We need those 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. And most Jaguars fans, I'm at a loss of words. Don't even know how to describe it. And I think we can beat the Panthers. I think we should beat the Panthers, obviously. But I said a long time ago, if the Jags don't run the table, I don't think we deserve to make the playoffs. And I haven't seen anything from what we played last week to show that we can run the table and we should make the playoffs. Like, still don't have, like, thank God that Houston and Indy lost, because if Houston had won, I mean, they were playing the Browns, which was going to be a tough game, but if Indy had won, they could have run the table. You know, and I'd still rather see Indianapolis in the playoffs than Houston. So, we'll see. We're still division leaders. But now we really got to take care of business. And like I said, I think CJ Beathard can beat the Panthers. I don't know if I could say he could beat the Titans. Now, like I said, we obliterated the Titans before, but that's when we had Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, and Zay Jones. Kirk won't be back. And Ridley looks like he can't produce without Jones and Kirk on the field, because that's when he has his best games. So, we'll see, guys. Don't lose the faith. You know, it was still always the Jags, but this is a rough week. This is the worst week all year. Because week 3 was bad, right? But then the Texans turned out to be good. And we didn't need it as badly. Like, it was kind of like, okay, it caught by surprise. This is just a new level. And that one was still kind of back and forth. We were in it in the second half when it started. We were out so long ago. And it felt like the Buccaneers just let us kind of back in by letting us score. And then they just, like, if I see Baker Mayfield complete another first down on 3rd and 7, I was like, I'm going to lose my mind. Every time the defense did something well, sacked him for, 5, 6, 7 yard loss. He just picked it right back up and kept marching down the field. 4 touchdowns. And it's like, if the Buccaneers had kept I have no doubt, if the Buccaneers had kept their foot on the gas and played like the Raiders played the Chargers or the Dolphins played the Broncos, they could have scored every single possession they had. I don't even know if they punted much until the game was already out of reach. They could have dropped 70 on us. Because once they decided to pick it up in the last half, instead of just running the ball to run out the clock, Baker Mayfield kept hitting his guys. 3rd and 7. Doesn't matter. Hit him. So Jaguars have a lot of soul searching, and it's like all this stuff. Like, again, you're supposed to be playing your best football. We only have 2 games to turn around, and us right into the playoffs. So I would not be surprised if it's an early exit, and that would just be horrifying for Jags fans, because this was the year we were supposed to take the next step into playoff contenders, and then potentially look to next year to be Super Bowl contenders. Right now, we are drowning. And again, a lot of injuries. We are in free fall, but coaching, better drafting, like, that's on the staff, to get through injuries, because every team has them. That's why you got to have your next man up and ready to go. So, just, again, go Jaguars. Going to keep cheering for them. If you can get to the game, get there. Make sure the Panthers don't get their 3rd win of the season. Because if they do, we are not making the playoffs. It's that simple. So again, guys, as much as it's painful this week, but remember, it was always the Jags.